For more, we'll cross now to France 24's senior reporter, Catherine Norris-Trent, who's standing by in Dnipro, Ukraine. Good morning, Catherine. So what is the latest then on those Ukrainian advances?
Good morning, Erin. Ukrainian forces have been continuing to advance, continuing the pattern we've seen over the past few days of rapidly advancing through territory in the east and northeast of the country, so in the regions of Kharkiv, but also of Donetsk and Luhansk, and also taking territory as the Russians retreat in the south on the Kherson front. So a lot of changes on the military map and a lot of buoyancy among Ukrainians and Ukrainian forces, because they're managing to continue to gain ground as the Russians have become encircled and then pulling back rapidly in some places, leaving all their material behind, their tanks, their weapons, their clothes. So it just shows the speed at which they have been forced to retreat in some areas. This is important because it is opening up more territory in the Donbass, in the 4 provinces which Vladimir Putin announced on paper that he was annexing. So you can see here that this is going to be a fierce fight to come. And indeed, in other areas, there are still fierce artillery battles going on. So this is difficult fighting, but the Ukrainians have been basically building on months and months of fighting and pushing at enemy lines to make these rapid advances.
So, Catherine, you mentioned those annexation orders that Vladimir Putin signed. What do you think then the implications will be of these counteroffensives, especially in those territories?
It's going to be very tough for the Kremlin to try and insist that they control the 4 provinces that the Kremlin announced that it was annexing, because the Ukrainian forces, are pushing deeper, especially into Luhansk province, which at one stage was completely occupied by Russian forces. Now they are threatening to cut off vital supply lines in the Luhansk province to Russian-occupied cities such as Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. You remember there were very fierce battles for those back in June and July. So this is going to play out badly for Vladimir Putin at home as the controversy over the mobilization continues in Russia. Down in the Kherson front, it's very interesting to see what will happen next. It seems like the Russians have withdrawn back to their second lines of defense to basically shorten the front lines. So they have a shorter front line to defend. But they will be gathering forces around the city of Kherson and Kakhovka, where there are vital supply lines of fresh water down to Russian-occupied territory in Crimea. So we can expect very fierce battles there. And of course, there are the questions about just what tactics Vladimir Putin will use to try and defend these territories, which he said he's annexed. As this war rumbles on, he says he's not taking anything off the table. And another strategy we're already seeing playing out is that Russia is continuing to fire missile strikes well beyond the front lines. Just south of here in the city of Zaporizhia, there were missile strikes early this morning. 7 missiles hit residential buildings there.
Catherine Norris-Trent, thank you very much.